It's often the little things, small behaviors that can change our lives. That's the power of a financial edge. I'm Ed Meek. I'm a financial advisor with a passion to help you retire early, save more, and live better. Welcome to Ed's Edge, the podcast to help you live the life you've always wanted.
I want to avoid volatility. It's very risky. I have a few examples, kind of stories that over the years I've come across when we start helping some of our clients. On 3 occasions, these clients each had different dollar amounts on how much they had in their investments, but to a T, they closely had about half of their money sitting in the bank and in like checking and savings accounts, virtually getting almost no interest or very little interest. And up until like today, I mean, interest rates are starting to come up and money markets are paying a little bit more, but they were making almost nothing. And then the other half of their investments were in various stocks and bonds. So half their money in cash, half their money in stocks and bonds. Why is that? It's because of the volatility of the stock market. As we tape today, the stock market this year has been by far one of the most volatile years in a very, very long time. And so we thought this was an appropriate kind of topic for us to discuss, volatility versus risk. And so we're gonna kind of circle back to these examples that I just mentioned a little later.
So if you've thought to yourself or had someone ask you, gosh, this investment is too volatile or this investment is too risky, we often think of both of those words as the one and the same. And the point of this episode today is to educate you on the fact that they are very different concepts. And so that's what we want to discuss today is what is the actual difference between volatility versus risk?
And how is it ultimately affect you over the short term and over the long term? I want you to take a look at this video. And as you're taking a look at it, I'm just going to give you the definition of volatility. So volatility measures how much the value of something goes up and down. If volatility is high, that means there are frequent movements, both back and forth or up and down, more often. Take a look at this chart. We had seen this chart, James and I had come across it kind of in the middle of the year, and it showed from week 6 through week 30 this year in 2022, it shows the weekly returns of what the stock market did each week. Almost none of them were like near zero. They were like, a lot of them were, as you
big
can
highs
see,
and big lows.
Big highs and not common, but this is what happens when the markets get volatile and they struggle. And so very volatile, good examples of volatility.
And there's a recency bias we have through psychology of, well, this is how it is. So the stock market's a gamble. I don't know what's going to happen next. Let's sit on the sidelines. I feel better that way. Or, maybe I just get out. All of those types of emotional responses makes us think that something that's volatile is also something that's risky, which is not the case. And so this next video defines risk. Risk is the chance that an outcome, in this case, individual gains, will differ from the expectation of those gains. So what does that actually mean? What that means is, what is the probability that what you're trying to accomplish will happen? Is it a 95% chance? Is it a 100% chance? What have you? And so this video of the explosion is the probability of that not happening. That's what we want to avoid, is those low risk events. And so I hear people say all the time, well, anything could happen in this period of time with the stock market. And they're right. Anything could happen in the next month or 2 months or 6 months, what have you. But I'm going to pull up this chart. This is a reminder. We've talked about this probably in one of our first episodes ever, which is the stock market really like a casino?
Well, this is something that you and I hear, and over the years have heard a lot. Like, the stock market's kind of like gambling. It's kind of like gambling, right?
Wrong.
Wrong, right, yeah. I mean, just check it out. I mean, the chart here is in front of you. It shows all the different kind of ways you can gamble, blackjack, roulette, and the statistics. And if you just play it like just according to the numbers, how often are you going to win? Now you could see why on the left there, that wheel shows why do the casinos make so much money?
They didn't build themselves.
Right. It's a diversified basket of stocks over moderate to long periods of time are the exact opposite. Your chances of success is extraordinary. It's not at all like gambling.
And here's a gamble, playing the lottery. I have some pretty interesting stats I thought I'd share with you all when I read these about the odds of winning the lottery. We know it's very small, but let's put it into perspective. You are 24 times more likely to be sentenced to death by your state than you are to win the lottery. You are 9 times more likely to be hit by a falling TV, of all things.
Is that really that bad now? I mean, TVs are not nearly as big as they used to be.
You're right. That's a fair point.
I mean, back when I was growing up, TVs were like 100 pounds.
Yeah, it did say
okay,
hit by a falling TV.
It would still hurt.
It would still hurt, but you wouldn't be dead, right?
No. It's just impaled.
Right, exactly. So the odds of winning the lottery are incredibly small. Yet many of us still play the lottery. And we know it's a gamble. Why do we still play? It's the thrill, it's the fun, the excitement. But when we lose, we often don't feel terrible.
What are the consequences?
Exactly right. The key here with risk and volatility to tie in together is consequence. What is the consequence of not winning the lottery? Well, I lost $10. Mm-hmm. I'm out $20. Not going to change your life.
What's the consequence of the story I brought up about those people? You know, the people that we came across who had about half their money in cash. And it doesn't matter what dollar amount you have, but if you are really trying to avoid volatility with a lot of your investments and you keep it in cash, what's the consequence? Well, over the short term, it doesn't feel like a consequence because your money's not fluctuating.
It's safe. I feel good. It's not changing.
This year, you feel great. Over the long run, the consequence is heavy. We're talking you retire 5 years, 7 years, 10 years longer. I kid you not. Like, if your runway is long enough and you're going to save your money and you put it in the stock market, like we showed in that one chart that showed us that there's a very high, extremely high likelihood you're going to make money and make good money, way better than cash in the stock market. You're going to end up literally retiring much sooner. And so that's the consequence. You have to take into account the consequence of your decisions.
And so when you think about the money that you have allocated and where it is and what purpose it has, make sure you can define that purpose. If it's sitting in cash, the purpose should be for something very, very short term. If it's sitting in the stock market, it should be for something more longer term. And certainly the bond market's somewhere in between there.
Right.
And so talk to an expert, talk to someone that can help you understand timeframes for your money, purposes of your money, and make sure you have the right risk, not volatility, risk associated with each individual bucket of purpose. That's
where an advisor, like what we do, and if you just find an advisor to be able to at least bounce this off of them to say, here's kind of my situation. What do you think? And there's going to be risks and rewards for how you're set up. And it's good just to understand as a confirmation that it's good, or here's the risks. And this is what we do a lot, is we'll tell people, here's what your situation is like. You either way too aggressive, you're going to retire in 2 years, and we have this happen like recently in the last couple of years. People come in, we're like, hey, you got all your money in stocks. Like, if you want to retire in the next couple of years, what if the market takes a hit? Well, this is what happened this year, right? And some of them will kind of change and create some more stability. But it's just really a good idea to have someone on the outside take a look at it, so you can understand all of these things.
Yeah. And the final note just on that outsider, that partner that we highly encourage you to talk to, is they can afford to be objective. Mm-hmm. They take the emotions out of it, which is very, very hard when it comes to individual money. So
I don't know if you're the one who found this or wrote this, whatever it is. It's a really good sentence, and I'm just going to read it because it's so good, and it just talks about risk. So, real risks, as we humans experience it, is not portfolio volatility. It's the likelihood that we will fail to reach our goals. And you have to keep that in mind. Like, what is your goal with this money? And that should be your driving force. And that's why we think this is so important to take into account.
Well said. Well said. All right. with all of that, let's talk about Ed's food for thought.
Okay. All right. Again, should I say this is my favorite time? I mean, because, I do like financial planning too, but I'll just have to say it's one of my favorite parts. All right. So I thought long and hard about this. I didn't want to share another recipe. Not that recipes aren't great, and I thought, you know what? There was a meal that just stuck out to me that I keep forgetting about. That's just an amazing meal, and it's so easy for everybody to access.
I like the word easy.
Easy.
I'm
very
listening
easy.
now.
So I think almost everybody, or at least if you're from the Chicagoland area, is familiar with Portillo's. And what's the first thing you think of when you think of Portillo's?
Beef sandwich.
You do, but that's not what I'm talking about.
Okay. Good.
Portillo's has a pasta vodka that's amazing. I kid you not. Like, I love pasta. I mean, who doesn't love pasta, right? Now, we shouldn't eat too much of pasta, but
Don't say that to my Italian family.
But here is how good it is. So I have 3 children, and over the course of time, you have various graduation parties, and lots of people come, and you do some kind of catering. And what we like to do is Portillo's. And even though we always have the Italian beef, the dish we always have to get like 2 big vats of it is the pasta vodka. For some reason, it is amazing. And if any of you out there have like a pasta vodka recipe that is somewhat similar, please. I've tried like 5 of them and I can't replicate it.
They have a secret sauce?
I don't know what they have. I have no idea. I'm just telling you the pasta vodka is great. Now, it's hard to pass up on a hot dog or an Italian beef when you get there, but I suggest maybe as a side, get the pasta vodka, or if you're a person who's not a fan of those things, get it. It is amazing. There's Portillo's all over, so give it a try.
So is it a catering only option?
No, you can get it. Like,
Just walk
I know
in and get it.
Portillo's used to have, I don't know if they do this anymore. They used to have like the smaller Portillo's, and they don't have, because Portillo's had the 2 versions. It was like Portillo's, and then there was another name, and the other name was like they did salads and pastas and stuff like that. And so the one by my house, that's just like I think Carroll Stream or Bloomingdale or whatever. That one has both. And so I don't even know if you can get it through the drive-through, but you can certainly go in there and get it. And so maybe the Portillo's all have them now, but if not, then find one of those. It really is good. So.
All right. So is Portillo's paying you to say this?
No. I'm going to tell him.
Then you know it's the truth.
I'm going to tell him I put it on this incredibly well, a lot of people see this podcast, so maybe I could get some money from him or something. I don't know.
We'll stay tuned on that. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for watching. We'll talk to you next time.
Thanks. This podcast represents an assessment of the market environment at a specific point in time, should not be relied upon as investment advice, and is not intended to predict or depict performance of any investment. Any specific recommendations or comparisons that are made as to particular securities or strategies are for illustrative purposes only and are not meant as investment advice for any viewer.